John Sifu out the front of the Greenbank military installation here, the live firing range. But we're out the front of this installation now. We're being very, very careful so that we don't encroach onto the military installation precinct proper. But if you see behind us, that's basically the red live fire flag. And we're well and truly just outside this military live firing range, and that's what it's used for. Yes.
So why are we here?
Why are we here? Well, there's a lot of talk about what's going on overseas with the Area 51 storming public event, and there's a whole lot of lore and I guess over the years some mythology around those sorts of installations. But Cosmic Girl and I thought to ourselves, well, you know, in Australia there are a whole lot of similar installations that go pretty much largely unnoticed. Like, you know, you've got your big ticket items like Pine Gap and what's going on with all the drone testing out at Woomera. But we're out here in Greenbank, which is about 40 k's sort of southwest of Brisbane, in the city of Logan. Yeah. And there's a massive installation out here. It's about 4,500 hectares, so it's massive. We've had a whole lot of anomalous activity, strange reports over the years, going back as far as how far back?
I'll look back into the 70s actually.
Yeah.
But on the UFO Research Queensland website, there's a database that's open to the general public, and you can go in there and search in the sightings, and you'll see that there's been about a dozen sightings, at least back to 1998, as far as the digital records go, that are available on there for you to have a look at. And one of the reports that came in from there was from a security guard, and I've just got it here. It was a security guard who was working at Greenbank in 2006, and he saw lights hovering above the tree line in the centre of the range area and observed two smaller lights come out of a larger one. And he'd seen other similar events on previous nights. And he's not the only one. We had another security guard called in another time, and they said that because there's a no-fly zone over Greenbank, and he said that he saw a yellow rectangular platform that was above the no-fly zone, and he wanted to report it. So, yeah, and you know, they're not the only people who see unusual things here. Because there's also anyone who's in the UFO community particularly, and in the Queensland UFO community, will know about the Greenbank alleged crash or explosion. And that was published in the book Alien Honeycomb by John Pinkney and Leonard Reisman. I think it was published in about 1980, but it refers back to an incident here which occurred around 1975. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but it was where something exploded, crashed, whatever, over the Greenbank range here behind us, and in the Greenbank area, and the debris was spread out for 3 kilometres. So that's a lot of debris. What it was, we don't really know, and but some of the information about it was that the authors put in their book were also they managed to get their hands on some of that debris, and it was analysed by the University of Queensland, and they said that most of the material also, by the way, when it was the debris was across their land, the RAAF came in and they gathered it all up and took it away, but a lot of the local people came in and scooped up bits of it before they did, because they lived right next to it, okay? And there are various people who've contacted UFO Research Queensland over the years saying that, hey, they had bits of it.
Some famous people?
They still, well,
that we're not allowed
to say, but one of them may be a musician, a singer.
Of the country variety?
Of the country variety, but we're not going to say who. Because authors write in the book that material underwent testing at the University of Queensland. The result was that the metal was not a conventional alloy, nor similar to those used in space objects. But other researcher writes that the material was commonly found in aircraft-grade fiberglass. So there's a bit of a quandary there around what it was and what it wasn't. But
why scoop it up so quickly, Cosmic Girl? If it was innocuous.
Well, you know, I guess it's the description too, because a farmer came forward to Reisman, one of the authors of the book, and he had a metallic fragment. He said that he and several other farmers had been standing outside a farmhouse after a meeting, And he said it was a clear night, but suddenly they observed a very bright light which grew bigger and bigger until it exploded. And after some time they heard hissing sounds around them, and then it was next morning a fragment was found. Now the other thing is that Reisman, down the track in his investigations, because he was a journalist and got very interested, and John Pinkney, who's sadly passed away, I think it was last year, so we can't go back and talk to him, but Reisman was contacted, befriended perhaps, and this could have been a setup, keep that in mind, by a young university student down at the Gold Coast, at Surfers Paradise of all places. And she said that she had a piece of the fragment, so he wanted to have a look at it. Eventually they got together and she showed it to him. In my opinion, I think that some researchers, when they take the only scientific approach, they can miss out on some of the information, some cases that are really important if they will only have to have that hard evidence, because cases can remain open for a long time, and you can have people down the track who even to this day are still coming forward and telling about what they saw and what they experienced and what they've got. And it's important that I think we remain open-minded about some of these things, because in my opinion some of these cases don't really close. There was one other piece that I forgot to mention, was that the UQ tested some of the material, and the military tested some of the material, and a couple of weeks after that testing was done, a journalist approached them to ask what the results of their testing was, and they said, "Oh, sorry, but the materials went missing."
All right.
So
that sounds very familiar.
They disappeared
doesn't it?
in transit.
Strange Encounters fans.
But, I don't want to make something out of it that it may not be, but I don't want to miss it in case there is something there that's really important. But there's been a lot of sightings in this area over the years.
Yes.
And you were telling me also about what was it? A possible yowie, was it?
Yeah. Well, back in 2008 there was a report. It actually came through. A UFO Organisation Australia report, actually, and it was all around aurora type anomalies, like light anomalies in the area. The way this bases are traditionally structured anyway, you've got your inner and your outer perimeters, and we're on the outer perimeter now, but allegedly, and so all the stories are pointing to, is that there is in the centre of this precinct a very secure area, and it hasn't been in operation since World War II, since when the Yanks were here, and they used it as a munitions dump and a little bit of barracks accommodation as well. But it's been off limits to a lot of the personnel here since that time, and it's under the guise of unexploded ordnance and the usual story. But we had one security guard here one evening, guys. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and he reckons he was patrolling the 800-metre rifle ranges, and that's what they do. They do a whole lot of small arms fire and training for military here. And he reckons that he was driving around and he saw these lights, and again, the purples, the whites, really strange stuff from the middle of the sort of exclusion zone, for want of a better term. But he was walking up a set of timber stairs, and he heard this guttural roar, like yowie type roar, that was coming from that exclusion zone. And you could say, all right, well, that is what it is. But for you guys that don't know, there's a wild brumby population here as well, and there's been a whole lot of controversial culling with regards to those animals over the years. But those suckers turned and ran. They were spooked by whatever was doing it. And he was saying, Cosmic Girl, that, what is that, some sort of attack dog or watchdog for the ETs. but he was so spooked that he didn't last very long, and he reckons that he had colleagues as well that had very similar experiences here, especially in terms of that anomalous, let's call it light type things. You've got this live fire range, and you have, it's always, the military and the council, how you doing? And the council always at loggerheads around noise complaints. And you would imagine, or you would expect, that live firing happens within certain times of the day. Even evening live fire doesn't go late into the evening. But what about all the seismic interruptions? What about all the ballistic stuff that residents are reported hearing at 3, 4, 5 in the morning? How do you explain that? So that's anomalous in itself and very, very strange. So look at that. So we've got our own sort of Area 51 type area, possibly location right here in Brisbane.
Yeah, I just think there's a bit more to this story.
Absolutely,
and I really want to dig around in that, and maybe we'll do it on the show. We're going to dig into this a lot more. And
do you know of anything? Have you heard anything?
Yes, and if any of you have got any of the debris yourself, we would love to. We don't have to keep it, but we'd love to get some photos of it.
But if you're giving it away,
we'll have some.
No. Yeah, sure.
Because you know what, I like to do some testing of that myself, actually.
Absolutely.
Send it to somewhere else and get it tested. But you know, you can. We'll certainly cover it again on the Strange Encounters radio show, and you can
absolutely.
look at hats on the
Yep,
hats
Bay
on Bay